All right. Is that coming through for you,
Crisp. Looking good.
Chris? Okay, cool. That is my shameless plug. My name is CJ. Hey everyone. I've been kind of lurking around. I think I've been on the one that we did on Nano Banana a couple of weeks back. So just a little bit about me. Um, let's see. I think folks are trying to look for the code. But yeah, background's in double E. I'm currently pursuing my master's in artificial intelligence. Um, Currently working for a software test company. Um, and yeah, kind of dabbling here and there in VLMs specifically, so vision language models, and also computer use agents. So I figured I'd do a session on them since I've been kind of playing around quite a bit. And I don't know about you guys, but I also got access to Claude, the Chrome browser extension, so just kind of been playing around with that too. Um, so yeah, fun fact, I was born in Hawaii, so a little bit about me. Um, just gonna do kind of a quick overview with some of the open source agents that I've been kind of playing around with, and then show you kind of some of the stuff that I've built into with it, just to see how they work. And then kind of walk through the Claude extension just to see what it looks like. So um, if anyone has anything, let me know. I don't know if I can see. Let me see if I can pull the chat over. Yeah, I can see the
I,
chat.
I can monitor chat for you if you'd like, and just like hop in if there's questions.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. Awesome. And yeah, I saw that yeah, I'm out here in Sacramento. I'm actually in one of the northern suburbs of Sacramento, so not too far. All right, there's my shameless plug. Okay, so I'm sure you guys have a pretty good background about computer use stuff. Um, it's basically just agents with the ability to look at the screen, usually through screenshots, pass that to like a grounded um, type of LLM. So, your Claudes, I think OpenAI, ChatGPT 5 is grounded too. There's a couple of like UI tars, which is a Chinese one. Basically, it can see what's on the screen and it can like convert that into XY pixels. So that's the sensor. Sometimes there's other tools built into it to be able to look at the DOM, or other tools to basically sense the context of what you're trying to interact with. And then on top of that, they have the ability to call tools to interact with the DOM for websites. For computer use, specifically for operating systems, there's usually some sort of accessibility layer, so it can look at the accessibility layer and then also interact with it. Um, and then generally speaking, it also has stuff like keyboard and mouse interactions, being able to simulate those things and be able to call those specific tools. So one of the ones that I'm going to show you right now is browser use. If you haven't heard of it, theirs is specifically um, you know, specifically this one looks at the DOM layer. So when it looks at a website, it's going into the HTML, the CSS, all of the X paths and stuff like that. One of the projects I'm building up is the ability to scrape down career sites, and be able to look at career sites. One of the reasons why I went down the computer use or browser use path is because I'm sure you guys know when you're looking at all of the different solicitations that companies put out, they're not standardized. Some folks put the location in the description. Some people don't even put the location. Um, Even when you're navigating through websites to go find job boards, It's not at, like Google/careers. Sometimes they put it into much deeper paths like Google/careers/job board. And because of the non-standardization, having an agent that can navigate through all of that stuff is pretty useful. Um, some of the drawbacks of using agents, you really like they need to be trained very well on user journeys, and a lot of them aren't because there's usually like a planning layer and then a navigation, or sorry, a planning step, and then there is a navigation step, and then there's like an interaction step. And a lot of times these agents aren't really trained on all of those things. So sometimes you'll hit infinite loops with some of the models where it's just trying to literally figure out how to navigate a website. Um, so in this particular example for browser use, this is their cloud platform specifically. You can see I gave it a bunch of instructions to go through specific sites and to find what job is listed in each of these sites. And it took about 15 minutes to complete 5 sites worth, I think 5 or 6 sites worth of jobs. In this case, I'm using the Claude, the Sonnet 4 specific one. And then I'm going through all the specific steps here. You can see all the different, individual steps that it's taking, the thinking process behind each step, and how it's navigating through this particular website. The challenge with this website, which let me minimize this so it's kind of out of the way. This website, I believe, is careers at Uniswap. Each one of these individual job solicitations is hidden under like an expander, and it gets stuck a couple of times trying to open up each expander, as you can see. So the navigation training in this one is probably not that great for this type of website, but it manages to get through it eventually. It like opens up engineering and opens up design like several times before it completes it and then moves on to the next step. So this is one example of browser navigation through this specific browser use platform. And of course, you can change models. I think I tried it once with let's see, O3. This particular run was with O3, and it just kept getting stuck on trying to navigate through the expanders. It literally goes into customer experience data science, customer experience data science, and it just doesn't get anywhere with this particular task. Um, so anyways, that's one of them. I can see that you guys are putting quite a bit of stuff into the chat. So
Yeah,
I guess open
I
it
think
up.
it's all just chatter. There haven't really been any questions so far,
Oh, okay,
but
great.
um, you're welcome to follow along with the chatter. But
Cool, cool, cool. So this is one example. This is browser use. Again, this one just goes through the DOM and it collects all the DOM information before making a decision. Another one that I've been looking at quite a bit is called Magnitude, and this one's more vision first based. So it definitely focuses more on using the VLM over using the DOM and kind of falls back on the DOM itself. Of course, all of this is being done through Playwright. That's been kind of the latest automation platform library for a lot of these computer use applications, these computer use systems. This one tends to be a little bit more focused on um, making sure that the grounded model is the thing that drives a lot of the automation rather than going through the DOM. Um, it's a little bit more helpful. I don't know how much you guys do web text stuff, but sometimes the DOM can be flaky versus going a more UI direction. Um, you can see here in the docs, it tells you a lot about what types of models to use, specifically in like the compatible models. Um, the reason that I'm kind of getting into a lot of this stuff is because I'm in test and automation. And so one of the things I'm seeing is that these types of like browser use, computer use models are great for self-healing and maintenance. And so the big reason why I've been kind of diving deeper into this stuff is to help with self-healing and maintenance. And that's where a lot of this playwright stuff comes into play. But you can see here it's even calling out if you want to use like a more open source model to use Qwen 2.5 VL. Um, and so these vision-based models have the ability to navigate, find things and navigate the browser and the computer use more effectively. Um, so yeah, this is another example of that. Um, and kind of how I've been building stuff, the application portion of it is just kind of wrapping all of the stuff around this is vibe coded obviously, but wrapping it around like a site where you can be able to use these in the back end. So this is an example of something I've put together using Magnitude. Um, and the idea is to kind of get closer to like a Magnus or is it Magnus? That big Chinese one where they have a bunch of agents that you can control. Um, is it Magnus? It
Menace,
is
right?
Magnus. Yeah. Manus. Um, so to get something of that level where you can launch several agents at once, and be able to, kind of run across different applications, and be able to run a multitude of tests, and be able to, utilize a bunch of browsers through these types of libraries. So yeah, that's kind of the first portion of it. Just kind of talking about some of the browser-based automation and agents. So yeah, kind of curious about what you guys think, what you guys are noticing, stuff like that.
So K-Ball and I were in the chat just kind of bemoaning the state of just navigating web UIs in general in scripts. Like I know Playwright's the new big one, but in the past I've used other tools for it. Like I can't remember the names of them because it's been a while. But like with Ajax stuff, it gets tough. And then I mean I have trouble with that even when I know I'm building something for one site. So it's interesting to think about how to have an agent navigate that in a more like adaptable way.
Yeah, I am curious how well the visual navigation approach works. Because, yeah, I would assume that the DOM-based one is going to work really well in a very accessible website, which is like maybe 10% of the websites and applications out there. And most people are using, you know, LLMs to generate code or JavaScript libraries that don't do them any favors and not investing in making this thing machine navigable, which has is the same problem that accessibility advocates have been bitching about for forever. Like it means that anyone not using eyes and a mouse to manipulate the web are struggling if you're using any assistive technology, but it also means that an agent trying to do the same thing is going to flail. Like it'll struggle.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I can kind of show you how magnitude runs, just so you can see what it looks like as it's executing. Um, Hopefully all of my APIs are still good. But this is a really basic run, and like the magnitude website says, it's very focused on the visual aspect of it. Um, I don't really know how to answer your question, mostly because of the complexity of some of the development that goes into just setting some of this stuff up is probably part of the challenges that I have noticed from getting into that stuff. That was a super simple one, but it kind of took just two steps to get to this point. The first part is for folks who have been working in the web tech space, there are some very advanced like anti-robotics in this space. And so just even trying to run some tests across like some of the more accessible websites is already challenging because the first step is like you can't even access those sites due to like um, robot.txt uh, kind of blocking the scraping, anti-scraping measures, more advanced CAPTCHAs, Cloudflare, like even trying to test this stuff, the first step is like, how do you even break into places that you can test for like real production sites and so on and so forth. So I've had to stand up a lot of custom sites just to be able to test certain types of interactions that I would hope the agent could take. And then of course with like more advanced like graphics and animations and stuff like that, this is something where agents really struggle with because right now the technology is take a screenshot, analyze the screenshot, think about next steps, take the next step. And so if there's anything that's close to real time or anything that requires like human reaction time or a human like click, drag, and drop, it immediately kind of puts the agent into this weird spot where it doesn't know how to interact with it. Um, so yeah, I mean that's a really good point because as cool as this is to be able to like set up very basic things, as soon as it gets even a little bit more advanced, this technology kind of breaks down.
So it sounds like there's sort of like a two-pronged approach where there's like DOM exploration, but also like render it, analyze the image, and then figure out where to click and navigate from there. How do you balance that?
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of like the two approaches right now. So magnitude is very much more focused on like looking at the screen and like understanding and getting context and insight from the screen. And then browser use is very much like focused on, what's available on the DOM. Both of them have fallbacks. So like I would say magnitude is vision first, and then browser use is DOM first, and then they fall back on each other if the agent struggles to navigate any of that in any way. So, but how do you balance that? I don't know. That's a great question. I'm still trying to figure that out.
Is that I kind of had a similar question there because I haven't really explored this stuff a lot, but Anthropic's computer use uses VLMs. Is that right? Is that so the two approaches are DOM based or VLMs, but some of them use a hybrid? And when you're talking about agents, are you
Mhm.
talking about are most of these agent frameworks VLM based, the newer ones, or is it hybrid as you were just explaining?
I would say most of them are hybrid because most of them have the ability. A lot of these browser use frameworks um, want you to prioritize using a VLM because at a certain point they need to look at the screen. So I would say most, if not all, of these agents use a VLM as kind of the starting point. It's just what they prioritize first. From my use of the browser use framework, it tends to do DOM first because that information is what it coalesces. And then you have the option to turn on vision-based tasks. I would say the accuracy in the way it interacts with the browser goes way up if you have vision turned on for specifically for browser use. For magnitude, I'm pretty sure it's vision first. It needs you, it's almost a requirement that you use like Claude, yeah, Claude for the model to drive the browser. Okay. So hopefully there's no questions from there. I was gonna show you, let's see if I can find my Chrome. So, I was putting together um, a presentation the other day, and I wanted to use a template from my company to be able to put together the presentation. And I figured, you know what, I had access to the Claude Chrome browser extension. Just like gotten waitlist access this week and was basically like, okay, maybe I'll put the presentation together with the plugin because I don't want to put together a bunch of PowerPoint presentations. It really struggled with that for some reason. I gave it a prompt and I was like, "Hey, can you put together this presentation for me? Um, and make this slide about X." And it just could not figure that out. And um, I'm really curious if anyone else has gotten the Claude Research preview for the Chrome extension because I almost find the performance of this much worse than some of the frameworks that I've shown you guys before. Um, but I figured we can do a live demonstration or try to uh, use this together and just see what it does because I've maybe played with it for a total of 30 minutes. But maybe I can do something like put together a presentation for um, the latent space uh, AI in for AI in AI applications weekly meeting and just see what happens. But yeah, I think one of the cool things about this is it's great for very basic and very repeatable actions. Um, but if it's complex, like putting together, a PowerPoint, uh, sometimes it just really doesn't understand how this works because the model itself hasn't been trained with the interaction. Um, I will say I didn't get to use this with 4.5 when it came out, so I'm wondering if 4.5 is enough, like they've done enough training for more agentic interactions with applications to be able to do stuff like put together slides now. But yeah, when I was doing this the other day, it really was confused about how to use this particular application.
How do you
Uh,
get the extension?
so there's a wait list.
Uh,
Let me see if I can go. I think you also need to get, I think you need Anthropic's Max plan, but don't quote me on that. I'm not entirely sure. Let's see. Claude Anthropic browser extension. Chrome. Claude extension for Chrome. I'll put this in the chat. Oh, that's not the website. So yeah, if you want to sign up for the waitlist, that's I think somewhere in this page. There we go. That's the full link. Um, so yeah, this seems like it's gotten farther than I remember it doing. It really struggled yesterday or not yesterday, the time when I first got it to put together a company presentation, but uh, looks like it's putting together a PowerPoint presentation for our group, which is kind of fun. Um, there are some interesting inconsistencies where it comes to like formatting and interacting with uh, applications for stuff where it has to do text input because you can tell like an AI has put it together. Um, but overall, it's like a great way to start something like most AI applications, and then you have to go in and of course touch it up and make it more improved. But yeah, there you go. It looks like it's doing a pretty decent job of trying to make a slideshow for us. But yeah, that's kind of most of the browser use stuff that I wanted to show you guys at the moment. If there are any comments or discussion points, I'm happy to open the floor up.
This is really interesting. Like I saw the blog post drop the other day and I just didn't really pay attention to it, but this is actually like cool to see the demo. I'm really curious, like I mentioned it in the chat, it might be kind of lost in the sauce, but like this seems like a really interesting use case because the DOM is a huge mess, but the UI is pretty intuitive. So like what other, like you mentioned job searches, which is there's some non-trivial stuff happening there, especially given they have like very different layouts. I'm curious what other kind of web apps you've tried this on, like the full spectrum, like some apps that are like super heavy UI versus some stuff that's like a lot more conventional. Like I can imagine this thing could navigate Hacker News and find, do some sentiment analysis on like certain threads or something like that a lot easier.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll be honest with you, I have not had this for too long of a time, but I'm happy to do live demonstrations right now with you guys. If you can think of any examples that you want to run through, I'm more than happy to just do that. We can have it stop making us a PowerPoint for the group. Um,
Could we do like Claudeception and have it like go to Claude.ai and do some dumb shit?
we probably could. Let me see if I can get onto Anthropic. Someone also brought up Perplexity Comet. I I have Perplexity Comet 2 if we want to look at that real quick. Perplexity. Do I have Comet on here? Or if someone else has Comet and wants to run it for us as a live demo while I figure out how to, let's see. Looks like, let me just stop sharing for a second. I think I need to do a cheeky log on for a second. But yeah, if anyone has comment and wants to share, go for it. It's Claude.
Claudeception is an interesting idea. I also find myself wondering about using Claudeception to interact with like the Claude prompt tuning workbench. And you just get the AI to drive a bunch of stuff. It would be entertaining. That said, as we talk about this, it all mostly feels like toys still at this point when we're talking about these uses of computer use. We're I don't know if you found some areas where it's reliable, but it feels like it's a long way from being able to independently assign it a task. It's much more like, okay, novelty, get this started for me and I'll come back and then I'll have to change a bunch of stuff or, look up, job board scraping. Yeah, if that's reliable, I think it's potentially useful. But yeah, I don't know. I'm curious your sense of like, is this we did a different, it was not a web-based, but it was a computer-based computer use one. And there was a lot of conversation at that point around like, at what point does this become our way of interacting with our computers, where we're just like talking to this thing and it goes and does things for us? And it felt then like we were a long way away from it. I'm curious what your perception is, having played with this for a while.
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, I would say my answer to that is it's great for atomic interactions. I think the reason why scraping job boards felt easy is because there are only so many steps from a landing page to a career board before it gets before it, it realizes that a certain page doesn't have a job board. There are like n number of steps that you as a user can take before you realize, oh, this company doesn't have available jobs. Um, it's when the it's when the interaction that you assign it is so open-ended where it becomes almost like toddler feeling. And that's where kind of human intuition needs to step in and be like, okay, this is not how you do it. This is the correct way you're supposed to do it. And I think it just comes down to the corpus of training that it has on steps to interact with an application. Um, and that application's use case, right? If I'm going onto a website with a closed purpose of finding a career board, that makes more sense than going onto a web page and being like, just browse around and see what it feels like, or like, try to understand what this company is trying to do. That feels very open. Maybe that wasn't a great example, but I think that is where it starts to get kind of loosey-goosey. The reason why I've been exploring it with testing, specifically in software testing, is that um, typically the things that we test for tend to be closed. So, for example, if you give it a user journey to go look for a job board, and you know that job board is supposed to be there, and the agent can't find it, that's a pretty closed problem for it to solve. But if you're doing a very open one, like, tell me if this uh, looks the best. Tell me if this website looks the best. Then it really struggles because it doesn't really understand what that concept of like looks the best is. I don't know if I answered that question really well, but that's kind of been my experience with some of these browser use agents.
I wonder, so as a dev, like if I saw a really cool site, like and told Claude, hey, how is that like effect done? Would it like look in elements and like be able to reverse engineer it? I think that'd be a pretty cool use case. I haven't played with it yet. I just installed it. So I'm kind of feeling it out before I let it just go wild on any site.
What would you guys like me to have Claude do with Claude?
Well, I guess we could start with having it explain the plot of Inception. That's hard enough for a human to do, right?
Well, and we should make sure it's not just a one step, right? So explain the plot of Inception, keep asking questions until you can, until you feel satisfied or something like that. Or like until you think you could explain it to a 5-year-old.
Take Flappy Bird and have Claude play it. That's a pretty good one. Oh, I think I, oh, let me see. Fascinating. Um, while that's trying to talk to itself, I'm going to see if I have Comet. I'm pretty sure I have access to it. You can see one of the tools in it is a waiting time. So it'll set its own waiting time to make sure whatever it's doing is completed. Um, I think there was a question back a few minutes ago about what makes it an agent. The agent is the ability for it to use its own tools to be able to interact with the browser that it quote unquote lives in. And speaking of browsers, that was actually something that I also took a deep dive in, which is all the kind of browser services that are out there, like steel.dev, um, stuff like that. It's something that I don't really interact with on a daily basis because I'm not a web dev. But yeah, just kind of going into that space too and learning about kind of what all the different browser providers are out there is kind of neat. So I got to play with steel.dev, and then also learning about like headless Chromium and how Playwright kind of interfaces with that and the CDP protocols. So generally speaking, what happens is these libraries, the browser use and magnitude, they recommend that you use like a kind of a browser provider for you to be able to interface with the agent. But you can of course use your own headless Chromium instance and get CDP pipes into that. Um, yeah, it's really having a fun conversation with itself. This is really interesting. Yeah, at this point, I'm just burning tokens to let it talk to itself. But yeah, it's just interesting. Um, I think I have Comet. So let me, if you guys are interested in looking at that too, I can get that pulled up and running.
Can you do some kind of scraping task, like going to a feed or a paper and just seeing how good it can pull it out? Also, I have the max plan. Does anybody else have the max plan, but you still have to go on the waiting list for this?
Yes. I should have just done that from Google. Uh, Look up the all you need is attention paper from Mecca and ELI 5. Oh, gotta give it permission to run. Oops. Huh. Yeah, it is kind of inefficient. It also looked like it just looked at the summary page and then decided to give me a summary. I didn't actually look at the actual paper, which is something interesting that I've noticed, and I'm calling it premature stopping, which is something that you'll notice with running these agents, which is once it gets to like a partial solution to your answer, it just decides to stop. And we've had to do some prompt tweaking, and maybe some guardrailing to help it move it along. But once it feels like it has a sufficient answer for you, sometimes it just decides to completely stop, which is not great when you need to be continuing or doing something that's persistent. Um, so, how does it do with PDFs? Well, let's see. Open the PDF for the full paper, read through it, and give me an ELI 5 summary. What's interesting is because it's using a VLM, I'm pretty sure it's using a VLM because it's reading through a PDF. Um, it can notice if it doesn't see text well. Um, it will actually zoom in on its own accord using its, tools. It will zoom in and get a better read of what it's looking at, which is, I think, is fascinating behavior for an agent. Um, can it see only what you see in the browser window? Yes, that is probably the thing that limits it the most, is that it's locked into whatever is available in the browser window. Um, what's really interesting is that, oh, actually, sorry, that was a different thought. I've lost that train of thought. Oh, and I got a connection error. I bet I probably exceeded the token amount that I have for my account. So one of the downsides, you're kind of limited to the service, of course. There's still how many pages? There's still 15 more pages in this PDF, and it just kind of crapped out. So let me see if I can get it to continue. Looks like you stopped. Please continue. Is this based on usage billing? I don't know. This is one of the things that's with Anthropic, there's not really a lot of transparency. I have the max plan. I pay for the $100 5x max plan. Uh, I don't know I don't know what the actual limitations are because this is a quote unquote research beta. Um, so thanks, Kevin. So I don't know what the limitations are. Sometimes I'll hit those, connection errors, and if I tell it to continue, it will. Sometimes I hit a really hard limit, and I don't know why I've hit the limit, and it just doesn't tell you. So, um, yeah, some of the caveats for that. So while that's running, I do have Comet up, and we can tell it the same thing. Can you find the all you need is attention paper and give me a ELI 5 summary. But you're not paying per token via the API. Yeah, you're not. You're just, if you have the max plan, you can use their service. So, um, nice. So Comet just did everything for you. That's almost feel like Perplexity in a browser versus a browser use agent. Um, okay, so like I said before, there's a little bit of premature stoppage with the agent. So it decided 8 pages out of 15 was enough for it to give you a summary. Um, after reading through the full paper, here's the simple explanation. Here's the problem we solved. Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good ELI 5. Um, but again, it decided that 8 pages was enough. I don't know if it really captured the full extent of the paper. Um, And I think there's some built-in guardrails that Anthropic put in so that they're not just burning tokens for folks who are using the max plan. Um, why it stopped at 8, couldn't tell you. Um, but yeah, has anyone played enough around with Comet? Actually, there's an update to know if it'll actually do stuff like this, where it will drive the browser for you, or if it's just more like Perplexity in a browser. Oops, that's a good question, Julia. I will ask it. You seem to have stopped at 8 pages. There are 15. Why? Navigate to. Oh, you're absolutely right. I should have read through all 15 pages. Probably because the rest of the pages are all appendix and is like I read through the paper.
Do you think that Claude is just using the VLM as just vision, whereas Perplexity and some of these other ones are the hybrid?
Well, I asked it to do it, and it does feel like Perplexity. It does feel like Perplexity in a browser because I asked it to now go to the archive site and pull the paper, and in the assistant itself, it's going through like its own computer. I don't know if you guys can see this because it's a bit tiny, and am I allowed to expand this? Yeah, I can expand it. It's actually Perplexity, like a Perplexity browser use agent within the browser. Um, and then, it almost feels like you're using the Perplexity app in the browser itself, and it's doing the browsing within the tool rather than doing it through the browser, the Comet browser, that Perplexity has given you, which is such a bizarre way to do it. Um, do you think oops, you're right response is a result of the Anthropic lacking transparency? Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question, Julia. I could not tell you how Anthropic wants to do, how to make their product. It's fascinating though. It actually gives you like a 7-part breakdown about the paper. So, I mean, I would use that for my research stuff in the future. But yeah, that's to answer your question, Brad. Uh, the Perplexity app doesn't feel like a browser use agent within the browser. It's like its own tool, and Comet has just kind of reskinned it for you. Whereas the Claude extension actually feels like it's using VLMs to look at stuff and interact with the browser. I'm sure there's some DOM interactions, maybe DOM tool calling in the back end, to do like interactions with like clicks and stuff like that. But it actually looks like Anthropic's using a VLM to look at the screen, so to speak. Looks like we got like 5 minutes left, so I'm gonna stop sharing and then just kind of open up the floor for folks to discuss and have conversation. But anyways, that's the end of my demo. Thanks, guys.
All right. Maybe we'll just at this point, as people comment, say one, thank you for running the show today, for sharing this. Super interesting, and we appreciate it. Uh, to call out to everyone in here, if this sparked your curiosity, maybe take that, go do some experimentation, go do some learning, and then bring it back to us and do another session on this. Maybe take it a little further, find a use case where this works really, really well, or one where it breaks in a very interesting way that is illuminating in some way. But yeah, do want to encourage you all to step up the way that Suja did. And sorry, I probably just butchered your name, but and
No, you did great.
and lead us through one of these. As we all like to say, I think I said it once and people latched onto it, and so now I'm repeating it every time because it's good. But it doesn't have to be, polished. It doesn't have to be useful. It just has to be interesting. And this definitely was interesting, and I think a lot of you all can do that yourself in whatever direction.
Can I pop in for one last question?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
So Siege, what are you looking forward to like exploring and digging into deeper next? Like now that you've shown us kind of a lay of the land, like what are some of your frontiers on learning about this that you're digging into next?
Oh gosh, that's a great question, Zach. Two things I would love to do with this. I would love to build a an agent, or sorry, an application that is multiple like personality agents that can also crawl through a website and give you feedback or information after you've run it. So being able to launch like five agents where one has a like copy persona where it literally just goes in and reads copy and website copy and it gives you feedback on it. I'd love to, or and then have a different agent that looks at like because they're VLMs, like aesthetics, like give you information on best practices of like, oh yeah, this particular button didn't render because your tailwind wasn't implemented correctly or something like that. And have multitudes of these agents just be able to walk through and crawl through a website and then give you feedback. That would be like one cool project that I've thought of that I probably will let die on the vine because I have so many projects going on. Um, and then the second thing is I've been really getting into swarms, so like biological animal-based swarming. And it's the idea of how do you take small but cheap agents, or in this case it would be models, that have vision capability and then be able to allow for this kind of like advanced navigating through websites, but at a much, much reduced cost. Because one of these agentic steps using Claude Sonnet 4 is like 30 cents is like the max I've seen, where it's just like a really dense picture with a lot of DOM information and a lot of tokens being pushed into it. But like taking something super cheap like a Gemini Flash Lite, and just running just a bunch of cheap agents to reduce the cost but get more information and complexity. Those are some of the things that I've been thinking about and interested in. But yeah, good question, Zach. Thank you.